Tanisha from the Aha Experience podcast, and today I have a special guest on the show, and we're going to be talking about the art of rewriting your story after a loss or grief or tragedy. And we'll be joined by Dr. Ashley Wellman, who is I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself and explain all this to you, because like I'll be reading the words of the page and I'm just like, what? But she's also an author. She's someone who suffered a tragic loss in 2018, and she took that loss and in order to heal, and she began writing books, and she wrote a beautiful book for her daughter in that process. But I'm going to allow her to introduce who she is and give you the long titles and the long streams of things that she does, because she's absolutely fantastic. So hi,
Ashley. Hi, Tanisha. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to reconnect with you.
I know, me too.
Yes. All right. So listen, it's more, it can be boiled down to I'm an Uber nerd and an advocate for people who really don't have their voice yet, or maybe are fighting to get their voice. And so I'm a criminologist, victimologist by trade. I have my PhD from the University of Florida in criminology. And in that process, I specialized in the families who are impacted by murder, or particularly unsolved murders. And what I got to do in that process and throughout my career is I've worked with the survivors of violent crime and working with law enforcement and helping people really understand how to process their grief and trauma and loss, and how to work with some of the entities you're forced to work with in some of those situations, such as law enforcement, bereavement groups, those kinds of things, the media, right? And so it's been an incredible professional journey. And then, like you said, that we'll get into, it's insane that this has been my platform and my specialty. And then when tragedy hits my life, I end up relying on the strength and stories of my survivors to say, Ash, there's life after death and there's life after trauma. And so that's what you and I will talk about today. But interesting how our lives come full circle, have all different chapters kind of bleed into each other. And so I'm so glad to be with you. And I'm hoping my story gives your listeners a little bit of energy and confidence that they too can take the good, the bad, and the ugly and really write a story that ends up being very beautiful.
It was the end of my job, and I just saved up my unemployment and left.
I'm good.
Yeah. And left and went. Yep. And it was the best thing that I ever did. And there was a journey of self-discovery. And the friend Sylvia, I was actually talking to her for the first month that I was there, almost every other day. And I was just, they're telling me to relax, and I don't want to relax.
I am relaxed. I am relaxed. That's me. What do you mean? I feel like I'm relaxed. Am I not relaxed? Right? I'm like, come on, Ash. I'm just.
It was so true. And I was carrying these huge, big ass suitcases of luggage. They were all overweight. And it was a metaphor for my life.
Yes. Let that stuff go. Yes.
When I came back to Houston, I didn't have luggage. I had a backpack. Too. Yes. A big one, like a backpacker's backpack. Yep. And a backpack with my laptop in it.
Yep.
Out of 2 huge ass pieces of luggage and a carry-on.
Let it go.
I let it go. And it's really a beautiful thing, because like you said, my leaving and going to Thailand, there was a piece of myself that I lost, but there was so much that I gained from it.
Oh my God. If you let yourself.
If you allow it. And again, it took me 2 months of me rebelling. I ain't doing this. You guys are not going to bully me into becoming like you.
That was good. 2 months was good. It took me a year, and I still have days where I'm like, don't do that, Ash. Perspective.
The perspective. And it was funny, because then I had to sit myself down and go, Tanisha, why are you spending $6,000 for 6 months? Why are you here?
Yeah.
Obviously, the way you've been has only gotten you here, and it's not taking you any further. So what do we need to do? And it was in that moment that I shifted. And my God, the beauty that came out of that shift.
Yeah, surrendering. You really surrendered to the process.
I really surrendered to the process. And now I realize I like the process, and I'm going to have to be careful, because my ass throw myself into a process just to have the process.
Just to have it. I'll tell you the other thing that I've learned that was such... And I'm not over this. I'm not healed, but this idea of I can control. And I think when we lose things, then you have an extra need to control things.
Yes.
So I very much, for me, when I had 4 miscarriages back to back to back before Buddy passed away. And I was like, that's okay. My career, I can control. And then when I was so unhappy and unhealthy, Buddy's like, take a risk. Let's give up your title. Let's start over at this new university. Right. And we move and we leave. He dies the day before I start at this new university. And I remember saying, the moment I'm back in that classroom, the moment I'm back in my element, I will have control. I will be back on the path to getting this job we moved for. I have control of that. I didn't. I got blocked from the job I moved for, from people that supposedly cared about me. Do you know what I mean? And I remember that loss of control. And again, like scrambling to like, okay, I need something to control. And this realization of saying, what do you really have control over? The only thing I have control over is how I treat myself and what I do with who I am.
And how I look at things.
I cannot control. Not my job, not my family, not my friends, not my daughter, not what my future holds, not my financial security. None of that can I control. I can try to make good choices, but when I live scared and I live in this element of trying to say like, I have to have control, I've completely locked myself away from this potential to get healthy and dream, because it's and so I got to remind myself of that too. I got to relax. I got to let go of it.
You're going to have to come to one of our yoga sessions on a Saturday.
I'm relaxed, Tanisha. Do not think I'm relaxed, right? Just remind me, be like, Ashley, you're not relaxed.
And I used to do this too.
All the time. I'm like, I don't understand why my body's hurting all the time. Well, you're in defense mode, girl. Calm down. Yeah.
All the time. I actually had a guy friend who I'm no longer friends with say to me, he goes, are you always on guard?
Yes.
I said, yes. I got a sentry walking across the top of the castle, looking down at the moat.
I'm coming for you. You don't want to get hurt again. You don't want to lose again. You don't want to.
Yes.
But when you let that down, you're not preventing the losses. You're allowing the gains. Is exactly.
Yes, exactly. The vulnerability part. And it was something that I learned, that control or wanting to have control is based in fear.
Yes, it is. Of course it is. I cannot lose again. I remember saying like one more thing. One more thing. I mean, like it was after the miscarriages, one more thing, I'm going to the loony bin for real. Okay. Then Buddy died. One more thing. I'm done. I cannot. Right. Job loss. What? Like you just feel like down on your knees, and it's like, okay, I'm going to protect myself from, but what you're doing is you're building those walls that say like, you're going to stay exactly where you are is what you're going to do. And that's not good for you. So,
and you end up hurting more behind the walls.
Yeah, you do.
You end up hurting more behind the wall. And it's just, like it's just me trying to be in control.
I'm not in control. I'm not.
And that's the thing about mastering your fate. So that's the episode before this one, the mastering your fate. How do you master your fate? You take advantage of the opportunities that come to you.
Yes.
Because it's the only thing you can control.
Absolutely.
Literally, the only thing you can control. You can't control the outcome. You can't control the trajectory. But what you can control is when the opportunity comes to you, you can try it. And I always explain to people that, a lot of people go, the opposite of love is hate. Actually, no, that's a lie. The opposite of love is fear.
Okay. I like that.
And thank you. Sorry. Fucking Amazon. The opposite of love is fear. And it's funny because I'll for people who are Christian, I'll take them back to the Bible, and there's that verse that it says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but he's given unto us the spirit of love. And you don't put those two together, because if hate was the opposite of love, then he would say God would have given us the spirit of hate.
Yep.
But it's the spirit of fear. And he's given us love. Why? Fear is what causes hate.
I think so too, that things are misunderstood. That's exactly
right. We hate what we fear.
Yes.
So then that would tell me that fear is the opposition.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's like, so when we make choices from a place of love, like when you surrender, surrendering is an act of love.
Yes.
It really is, because you take the pressure off of yourself to perform. Life is not about performance. Life is about living.
Absolutely.
And embracing it. And my God, the flavors of it is just, yes, when you eat your food, you're going to eat some bitter fucking greens.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they might be good for you too. Who knows?
They're good for you. You know, and then they set your tongue up for when you eat the sweetness, it tastes even better.
I like that.
And so embracing the suck, like we say, I'm making a t-shirt for you.
Please do. I want one. I want one on my doorstep.
Okay, I'm gonna send you one because I got a cricket joy, and I'm gonna print that bitch out and put it on a t-shirt and send it to you. Embracing the suck, embracing grief, embracing loss, embracing it, because man, it actually makes life more colorful.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know that's hard to hear. I know people don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to hear it for many, many years. I avoided pain, and I caused myself more pain trying to avoid it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think if you do not process it, if you do not grieve and honor what you have lost, you do not think about, right? The loss is horrible, but whether it's a friendship, a job, whatever, think about the chapter it gave you, right? So for me, my biggest loss, my husband, right? He taught me what true love was. He gave me courage to believe in myself beyond what I ever knew possible, because he was my biggest cheerleader, and he gave me this beautiful daughter. And if he had shook my hand on April 30th of 2010 and said, I will not be here in the year 2019, I will not be here, I would have married him all over again, because it was the greatest chapter that ended with horror. And I would have done it all again. My job, yes, my heart was so broken. It was so broken from that. But my students, my research, the family that I did develop from my career, right? Friends around the country because of my career, people that gave me the strength to survive my husband's death. I would have had none of that had I not been on that journey that ended in horror. If I hadn't tried for more babies, right? All of those things, there was joy in that. I experienced something with my husband, right? All of those things. So do not forget the journey that led you to the heartbreak. And don't forget what good could have come of that. The friend who broke my heart, she stood next to me in the emergency room. And you know what? I needed somebody there at the time. And maybe it could have been anybody, but it was her. And I needed somebody there, so there's remember some of those things that came from that journey, and grieve the end point, and then turn the page.
Yes.
Turn the page. You get to write it, not anybody else. You get to rewrite the rest of your story. It is scary, but there's a whole world. You get to create whatever world you want. It is blank. You're blank, right? Start writing. Surrender and start writing.
Oh my God.
Old acquaintance be forgot and never